Alright guys, we got the balance changes for the current Clash Royale meta. This is after the emergency Goblin Sign nerf, and this is for the October season. So the S tier is the most broken cards, and the F tier is the worst cards that probably need a buff. So we'll start with skeletons. We have skeletons coming in at B tier. I don't really think they're the greatest card. I think that for only one elixir, getting three skeletons really isn't the greatest anymore. But it's still just a one elixir card and it cycles. So I guess it's not the worst card in the world. So yeah, we'll go ahead and put skeletons at B tier. We got the mortar. It'll go in at A tier. I think the mortar is honestly a really good building right now. I think that it gets a lot of value, and I think that it's honestly super good. Like it's honestly like better than Expo for sure. And I feel like that it's honestly a really solid win condition, and you can get a lot of value with cards behind the mortar while the opponent's troops are focused on destroying the mortar. We'll put the minions in at B tier. I feel like unlike the minion horde, they can somewhat get their value because for only three elixir, you can play them and they can shoot right away. And similar to the firecracker, as long as it just like gets a little bit of DPS, if your opponent uses a spell, it's already kind of got its value. They're not that terrible, but they're definitely not the greatest. We'll put the spear gobs at B tier. I think since the buff to them, that they're honestly not the worst card. They have that first hit speed buff, so I think that makes them pretty good. But they're definitely still just the spear goblins, and they still get destroyed by a lot of things, and are still just kind of squishy. But being able to hit air and ground make them a viable choice in a lot of cycle decks. We'll put the Tesla in at B. I know some people say it's like terrible, but I don't think it's like that terrible. I mean, it's still like can shoot ground and air. This is just a non-Evo Tesla, so I still feel like it covers a lot of ground for just the four elixir card, and I definitely think it's like just still strong. Um, we'll go ahead and put the knight also in at actually still the knight at A tier. I feel like the knight gets a lot of value for three elixir. I feel like it just has super solid stats, and I think it's in a really good place right now. And I think that like it's just really good in a lot of cycle decks, and it can just like get its value in mortar. And it just for three elixir, it's hard to like not run for those stats. We'll put the cannon in A tier. I think the cannon's strong right now. It like really is good against Goblinstein. Um, and yeah, that's really good. It pretty much does what the Tesla does for like one elixir less. And it's honestly a lot more popular in the meta than the Tesla right now. And it's using a lot of cycle decks with the Goblinstein. So we'll put the bomber in an A tier. I don't really think the 5% HP nerf did anything. I think the bomber is a really strong card, and I think it gets its value a lot. Um, I think for two elixir, it's just a solid splash card, and it could be run in a lot of decks. Um, I'll put the musketeer in at B tier. I think this is a very solid cycle card. I think it's the only thing that like keeps like 2.6 relevant because the musketeer is just such a good solid cycle card on defense. And I just think that it just is super good. You just use any building plus musk. This feels very tilting and like you can defend everything. We'll put the Zap at F tier. I think this spell's in a bad space, in a bad shot, in a bad spot right now. Like it just doesn't feel that good for two elixir. The stun doesn't last long. Like log's a lot better. Feels overshadowed by a lot of things. We'll put the hog at B tier. It's not in the worst spot right now. But I feel like a lot more people are running piggies decks. But it's still kind of a solid win condition. I think the hog decks are a little more defensive, but it's harder to get damage with a single hog. But it's definitely a solid win condition, and I don't think it's going anywhere. We'll go ahead and put the goblins at A tier. The goblins honestly get a lot of value for just a two elixir card, and unless you kill them right away, it's really hard to stop them. And I feel like they're better than the spear goblins because their DPS is just so much more on the ground. And honestly, to me, yeah, the goblins are just like super good. And you just have to like have log or something right away, like a splash card to DPS them down, or else they'll get their value. Yeah, the archers are just F tier. I feel like the non-Evo archers are like nothing to be afraid of. You split them, it doesn't really do much. You play them sane lane, you can arrows them down or any spell. Any unit like splash or non-splash can DPS them down right away. They just feel like they've been like a power creep card. So yeah, put them in right at F tier. And then we'll go ahead and go with the arrows. This will go at S tier. The arrows are honestly super good. I feel like the arrows are really like one of the best spells in the game. Um, Even like with the Crown Tower nerf, I don't think that really did anything to them, and they just still feel super strong. And honestly, I just don't think they're going anywhere. And I think they've been using beatdown and cycle, and being able to like map things like firecracker is just super, super duper important. We'll go ahead with the minion horde at F tier. It's kind of like the barbarians. They're just a splash card that gets DPS down super fast. So the minion horde just really doesn't get much value at all. So just for that reason, we'll also put the barbs in at F tier. The barbs and minion horde for 5 elixir are just terrible cards. They both get DPS and splash down right away, and it just doesn't feel like either of them can get their value. And there's just too many good broken splash cards in the game too that probably honestly deserve nerfs. So for that reason, I feel like these two cards are just doing nothing right now. And yeah, I'm not really considering the evos for any of these. So that's where I'm at. The tombstone at C tier. Honestly, the tombstone I feel like is not in the greatest spot right now. Ever since the cannoneer nerf, it feels like it was really only used to like go against cannoneer decks, and against princess, it's easy for the tower just to destroy it, and it doesn't feel like it's doing that much on defense. I feel like other buildings like the Diddy cage and other stuff just get more value than it. So yeah, the Tesla cannon even. So now we have the fireball. So for the fireball, honestly, I feel like we want to put the fireball. Go ahead and put the fireball in at A tier. I think the fireball's a really good spell right now, but I don't think it's the greatest spell. Like I definitely think arrows is probably slightly better. It's like 1 elixir less. The fireball is a lot stronger, and I think like in poison or like in like a similar spot right now. It's hard to say which is better. But fireball is definitely a really good spell. We go ahead and got the Valk. We'll go ahead and put the Valk, the non-Evo Valk, just in at a B tier. It feels like a strong defensive card. I don't think it's anything too strong or too weak. I don't know. I don't think it's like A tier, but I don't think it's like a weak card like a CUD here card. I don't know. That's just my opinion on it. I don't know. Maybe it's stronger than I'm giving it credit for. And then I'll also put the mini P.E.K.K.A in at a B tier. It just once again feels like one of those middle ground cards. Nothing too strong, too weak. Like the Valk is like the splash version of it, and they're both 4 elixir. I think they both can get their value. The bomb tower, we'll go ahead and put that in at B tier. There's gonna be a lot of B tier cards. I mean, it's the middle. I feel like it's definitely better than Tombstone, but I don't think it's better than Cannon or Mortar right now. I think it's in the similar spot as Tesla, just a 4 elixir building that's getting overshadowed by like the 3 elixir building Cannon. But it's not a bad spot. Could put the Giant in at D tier. The Giant's in like a really bad spot in the meta right now. I feel like just because with the Giant it just feels like that there's a lot of P.E.K.K.As in the meta. So because of that, the Giant just struggles to get his value because everyone just P.E.K.K.As on the Giant. So yeah. We got the Wizard. It'll go in at a C tier. Honestly, I don't think the Wizard is all that great right now. I just feel like honestly, sorry for the video. I guess like we don't need to show the S tier like all the time. We'll go back to it. There's not like every card S tier. I just noticed it's kind of like cutting off as I go. Sorry about that, but the show continues. But yeah, the Wizard honestly is like not in the greatest spot right now. The not Evo Wizard. Actually, the more I think about it, the not Evo Wizard's like definitely like it's like a D tier card. Like even after the health nerf, it's just really not doing that much. if you get what I'm saying. Like it just feels like it's not the greatest. It feels running for the Evo. And we'll put the Inferno tower at D tier. I mean, for 5 Elixir. I just feel like it's not the greatest building, you know? Like it just feels like there's other buildings that just outclass it. It definitely does its thing. For 5 Elixir, I feel like there's things that do its thing a lot more. The Goblin Hut at F tier, it's just like a terrible spawner. You guys know the vibes of the Goblin Hut. Um, Dude, I hope it doesn't like cut off. We'll have to see what happens when I put more. All right, we'll put the rocket in. I'll put the rocket in at B tier. Some people might have it at A tier. I don't think the rocket's like the greatest spell, but it's definitely not the worst. I mean, extra rocket's a thing, but for 6 Elixir, I just feel like lightning's a lot better. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and put pump. Pump it at B tier. Some people I noticed had pump at C or D tier. I think pump's goated right now. Like I know there's like a ton of lightning in the meta, but if you think about it, like every time they lightning your pump, it's a +1. So you should be able to play it and like split their damage, and pump shouldn't be the worst card. I just think a lot of decks have trouble fitting it in because it's a heavy card. But I don't think pump in itself is the worst. And if they're running EQ, you can identify it pretty early and not play the pump at all and probably just win the matchup at all, like just outright. So yep, I don't think it's that terrible. Bar put at F tier. It's a spawner. It's not good. Mirror. It's F tier. You don't want to just play the same card for one more elixir. You know, it's just not good. Even if it is like a level higher, it's just not good. Rage, honestly, Rage at A tier. I think Rage is honestly in a good place right now for 2 elixir. I feel like it gets its value. It's not like the goat or anything, but it's definitely not terrible if you get what I'm saying. Like it definitely like can help things up, speed up, especially Goblin Giants, anything really. But it's definitely not a big spell. Skarmy, yeah, it's F tier. I don't think it's that good. It's a splash card. I mean, it's a bunch of skeletons inside anything. We'll go ahead and put the barrel at C. Like obviously we're not looking at the evos, and the barrel is just a 3 elixir card that can easily get countered. So honestly, yeah, I don't think it's the greatest card right now. Let's see, the baby dragon. We'll put it at D, honestly. I can't really think of many other decks that use it outside of like graveyard. And like if you're trying to attack it in any deck, like it could just be easily like replaced by a Phoenix. It just feels like a power creep card that should be buffed, honestly, for 4 elixir. I guess it's a little tanky and does splash, but it just doesn't seem like it's doing that much. Like even the Skelly Dragons feel better. Freeze. I'm dropping Freeze in B tier. I don't think Freeze is in the worst place right now. I just noticed my face is like blocking it. Hold up. But sorry. Maybe that'll work. Sorry. Okay, back to the video. But yeah, Freeze isn't like in the greatest spot right now. I mean, Freeze is in a good spot because the Evo E-Drag is so good. So honestly, I don't think Freeze is that bad. Because of the Evo E-Drag, if you catch my drift. So yeah, Freeze definitely not in the worst spot. And I'm gonna go ahead and put the Witch at F. It just feels like for 5 elixir, it's not the greatest card, and there's a lot of other cards that outclass it. Like it's just like an outclass power creep card. We'll have to put the Prince at C. It definitely doesn't feel like it's the greatest anymore. I don't know why it's like cutting off the whole thing. Sorry, this is like my first YouTube video. But yeah, basically, the Prince is like, it's like I feel like ever since it's got that tile nerf, it hasn't come back as much. I think it really did affect it a lot, the half tile. And so I think it's just like it's not the worst card, but like even things like Cannon Cart for 5 elixir just tend to like get a lot more value now. So I think C is definitely where it belongs. We'll put the balloon in. I'm putting it at C. I mean, outside of like lava, I can't think of like a lot of decks that play it besides like the Miner Animan deck. I feel like Balloon's only good because the other cards around it, like Miner and stuff. I don't necessarily think Balloon in itself is the greatest for 5 Elixir. I don't think it's the greatest win condition. Maybe other people do, but I don't know. To me, it just seems like a power creeped card that can get easily countered. We'll put Skeleton Giant at or Giant Skeleton, sorry, at D. I don't really think it's that good of a card anymore. Um, it just for 6 Elixir, it's not the tankiest. I mean, I feel like the bomb, it feels like a Demolisher bomb, and it just feels like there's a lot of other cards that can play around it. So like that can just destroy it for a positive trade. We go ahead and got the Lightning. We're gonna put it at S tier. The Lightning is super good. It's such a good spell. It takes out with the fucking the Scientist. It takes out the Palms. It has way more range than the Rocket. I think the Lightning's in a really, really good spot right now. I think it's almost like a must run, especially in like beatdown decks. Like if you don't run it, like the E-Dragons will like take out your push immediately and everyone's running E-Drag or Pump. So I feel like Lightning's like almost like everyone has to run Lightning in this meta. We go ahead and got the Expo. With the Expo at D tier. This doesn't feel like the greatest win condition right now. It just feels like the mortar's a lot better. The mortar it feels like is like 2 elixir less, and the Expo just gets hard countered for positive elixir trades a lot. Earthquake's coming a lot back. So yeah, I don't think it's really in the best spot. We got the P.E.K.K.A. Like obviously non-Evo, it's going straight to A tier. This card's just super solid. I feel like even a non-Evo probably needs like this a straight a nerf. It just hard counters all the tanks. Obviously they're making more high elixir cards, beatdown cards. So I feel like P.E.K.K.A. is just being like a must run in more and more decks. And so yeah, P.E.K.K.A. goes straight to A tier. It's so good. Golem, I'll put it in C tier this meta. I don't think it's the worst win condition, but I don't think it's the best win condition. I mean, you can run Golem Pump, and Pump is kind of bad because of the Void nerf. So I feel like that alone makes it kind of viable. But still, like, P.E.K.K.A.'s everywhere, and like I think a really good P.E.K.K.A. player can sell out value. You kind of have to pray they like do something weird. You can like get some crazy push. But yeah, I don't think it's the worst season for Golem. I think it's a better season Golem than a lot of other seasons. We'll put RG at B. I think RG is good just because like RG Fisherman's so good. So you can just like RG Fisherman like lightning their shit. And it's just so ranged. Excuse me. Feels like easy to do chip damage. So I don't think it's in the worst condition, but I don't think it's the best. Put 3 Muskin at F tier. I don't think 3 Mus is the best win condition at all right now. They're just way too heavy, and they can get lightning, they can get splash down. It's really not that good. Put Dark Prince on a D. Yeah, for a 4 elixir card, it's just really not that strong. You know, like it didn't even get the charge buff the Prince got. I feel like there's a lot of other strong 4 elixir cards in the game. And I don't think the Dark Prince is really in a good place. I think it should get like a shield buff or something to make it more unique if they're not going to do a charge buff. But even like with the charge buff is a lot weaker. So I don't know. Poison, it's going to go in A tier. I think it's like a really good small spell right now. I think it's in a good spot. It's only 1 elixir more than arrows. And I feel like it cleans up a lot more. But it doesn't feel like super overpowered. It feels similar to Fireball. Only it takes a little bit longer to get its value. But that can be a good thing sometimes because it's like your opponents can't like play cards in the area because they'll like just keep dying. Princess, I'm gonna put it in B tier. I don't think it's like a bad card, but it's not like it's like the Princess Bridge meta. It doesn't feel tilting, but like yeah, for 3 elixir, it can get its value, and it's a good like kind of distance control card in cycle decks to like kind of build on the map and keep you in check, and you really have to like keep their princesses in check, or else you can get a lot of value on you. Ice Wiz, we'll put Ice Wiz at A tier. I think Ice Wiz is in like a super good spot right now. Ever since Ice Wiz just got that buff, it just feels like it's just really, really good. And yeah. I don't think it's like going anywhere. And it just does so much splash now. It just feels like it's so good. And I just want to keep using it. And I feel like it's just such a good defensive card. And yeah. Um, let's think. We have the Fire Spirit. Honestly, it's gonna go into to C tier. It just doesn't feel that good anymore. For one elixir, it just feels like it's like it does damage, but that's it. Feels like there's a lot of other cards that synergize a lot well, and even other spirits they get more value, and it doesn't feel like the damage is all that anymore. Furnace is going to F. It's like also its ability doesn't do much anymore. Like all buildings kind of suck. Um, I mean all spawners suck. Guards is going into A. Guards is in a really good spot right now because of the shield. Like I feel like if you think about guards conceptually, like it's just like a super good card. For 3 elixir, it gets like all that value just from the just from like literally just from like the shields. Like 3 different shields from 3 little cards. Like the P.E.K.K.A.'s have to swing so many times. And it just P.E.K.K.A. meta, like it's really good right now. Miner. The miner in at B. I mean it's definitely not bad. I don't think it's anything super good. It's an okay win condition. I think good players can definitely play around miner, but I think like the whole point of running miners, your deck's really good on defense. It's like chip damage. So yeah, I think it's in a good spot, but not too good or not too bad. We have the Sparky, put it at D. For 6 elixir, it just feels like it's just not getting its value a lot of time. A lot of lightning in the meta. Galvanstein resets it. A lot of resets. E-Drag resets it. So yeah, it doesn't feel like it used to be. Put Lava at B. I feel like Lava's always like a decent beatdown deck. Not changing this meta. But definitely doesn't feel like an S tier deck, and doesn't seem like the tier 0 deck either. It's like and it doesn't seem better than P.E.K.K.A. It's an okay beatdown deck. Ice Spirit is A. I feel like it's definitely the best spirit and like the most defensive spirit. It's like a really good card on defense. It really gets its cycle value. I feel like it just really gets its value a lot, and it's just really good. We got the Bowler. We got the Bowler coming in at the Bowler coming at C tier. I feel like the Bowler, it's not like the greatest card now, like for 5 elixir. But it's definitely not the worst. I think it like can still like hold that lane really well. But it just feels like there's other cards like the Ice Wizard even now that almost overshadow it because it's just an expensive splash card in a game with a lot of splash. We're gonna put the Log. It's also going to S tier. I feel like the Log is like always an S tier spell. For 2 elixir, it's just like so good. It, like counters drill, pushes things back, gives your troops more time to shoot. Just like conceptually like broken card. It's always like S tier, A tier, Lumberjack. D. I just don't think the Rage is like the greatest attribute. Like it drops. It feels like it's sometimes unpredictable where it drops the Rage. Play a lot of cards behind it to try to get value from the Rage. And then those cards like inevitably like get countered. So it's like not really the best thing. Ice Golem. We'll go ahead and put it in at it's either like C or B tier. I'll put it in at B tier because it's only 2 elixir and it does have like a pretty long stun. So I just can't see how it's like the worst card. And I think it's a good card in cycle decks. But Mega Minion at C tier. I don't think it's that bad. But I think like cards like Phoenix can kind of like overshadow it. But it's still like a solid 3 elixir card. Inferno Dragon's going in at A tier. I feel like for 4 elixir, like it's hard for it to like have synergize with a lot of decks, but on its own, just hard counters P.E.K.K.A. and like can get like a lot of positive traits kind of instantaneously. Graveyard's going at D tier. I don't think there's like a lot of or I mean not D tier, C tier. I don't think there's a lot of Cannoneer in the meta, and it feels like it's like easier to defend Graveyard with all the splash. So yeah, I don't think it's like in the greatest spot, and I definitely don't think it's like that powerful win condition. We'll go ahead and put Elite Barbs in at F. I think for 6 elixir, they're really not the greatest, and they get DPS down like really fast. And honestly, like there's just like they're like barbs. They're just not doing what they should for 6 elixir, you know? Like I feel like they're just like a trolley card. Like only bad players play them. Um, we're putting tornado. We have so many S tier. I feel like it's like an S tier spell because like it's so good with all the splash. You can get King Tower activations. It's good with Ice Woods. It's good with E-Drag. Um, like literally moves your opponent's troops. It just fundamentally is like a broken card. Put the clone. Whoops, sorry, we gotta scroll down more so you see it. Put the clone in a F. I don't think the clone's that good right now. Let's see the other terrible cards. I know part of the screen's kind of like cut off, like you don't see the whole tier list, but that's just how it is, and it kind of makes sense to like just show the cards around the area too. You have to look at everything at once because we're trying to break down cards. But clone just is not good right now, man. Like there's so much splash in the game. It just is not a good spell. Like it's terrible. Like it shouldn't make sense. We're gonna put the E-Wiz at I'm putting it I'll put it at C. It's not the greatest. I'd put it at C or D tier. I think the E-Wiz is definitely not in the greatest spot right now. I mean, it just feels like there's a lot of other good 4 laser cards like the Phoenix that probably get more value. And it just feels like it kind of has like a weak shot. And I don't know how like relevant the spawn zap is. We'll put the Goblin Gain at A tier. I think they're a really good defensive card. You get the spears and the goblins that are both already powerful for only 1 elixir more. They have to like spell them down or they'll get their value like right away. Put the Dark Goblin in at dude, honestly I want to put it in at like A, but I kind of want to put it at B. Yeah, I'm putting it at A tier. I don't know. That might be a faded take, but I feel like ever since it got that buff, it just feels like it's a lot of value, and you just need to like respond to it right away, and it just feels like a really strong cycle card that can just get like a lot of DPS and like really up the DPS of cycle. Ram. I mean, honestly, like just F tier. This card sucks. Like it's almost like worse than Lumberjack because it's like kind of they both like just get hard counter, but at least Lumberjack drops a raise. Rage just drops like 2 barbs. I think the only reason people run Ram is for like the Evo Ram, which is kind of decent. But yeah, definitely not the regular Ram. It's just a bad card. Xe. Put Xe at like a B tier card. I think it's honestly pretty good. It just like hard counters like a lot of splash and it's like a lot tankier than Wizard. So it can like even survive a lightning. And like I just don't think it's bad. I like never will think Xy's bad. I know it's heavier, but it almost does feel like a little better than Bowler just because it shoots ground and air. That may be a faded take, but honestly, especially in this meta, like it doesn't seem like Bowler's doing that much. So I don't know. Probably like at B or C. Bats. I feel like bats are like a C tier card. Actually, they're a B tier card. I mean, they're 2 elixir and they shoot ground and air, like the non-Eva backs. Like, yeah, if your opponent has splash, they counter to wear it away, but if they don't have splash, they get a decent amount of value. We'll put Heal Spirit at D tier. I think it's a kind of like a gimmicky card. Like, it's like Prey ever gets its value. It might be good in like a 3 tech or something, but like even that's like pretty gimmicky. But yeah, I'll put it in at D tier. We got the Bandit. It's definitely it's going in A tier. I feel like the Bandit's like a really good card for 3 elixir. It just that dash just makes it get value instantly so many times. And I think for that reason, it's just like really hard for it not to be a good 3 elixir card. And yeah, the Night Witch is going in D tier. I don't think the Night Witch is in the greatest spot right now. There's just so much splash in the game. It takes like a whole 5 seconds just to produce 2 bats. It feels like half the time the bats, like, or most of the time the bats don't even do anything. They'd add like an E-Drag or something. And then it's like for a 4 elixir card, you have this like Night Witch that's like lagging behind that just gets DPS down right away or spelled down. It just doesn't feel, it's not what it used to be. Not the greatest. Skelly Dragon's going C tier. I mean, it definitely does more damage when it gets to the tower now since that buff. It's using a lot of cycle decks. I don't think it's the greatest, but it's not the worst. Um, it's an okay chip damage. One condition with cycle. We'll go ahead and put it in at C tier. The flying machine's in D tier. It's only really good in like recruits, and I feel like recruits really isn't like ran that much anymore. And for that reason alone, I think it's like a D tier card. Um, and so yeah, I just think that it's just like not the greatest card anymore. Like it just gets overshadowed by a lot of cards. Um, and then flying machine dies to fireball as like any splash. I just don't think it's the best anymore. So we got the cannon cart. We're gonna honestly put the cannon cart. Must be faded. I'm putting an S tier, bro. I swear the cannon cart ever since the buff is so good, man. It's just like the best card in the game. It's just hard for me to ever play a game with cannon cart and feel like it didn't get value. It has so much range. You can shoot from the other side and like support a troop. This is just forever an S or A tier card since the balance changes unless they do something with it in the future. Um, with the Mega Knight, honestly, it's going at D tier. I feel like just the Mega Knight by itself is like not the greatest win condition. It feels like the giant, like it feels like gimmicky. I think people only really use it for the Evo. The Evo Mega Knight looks really good, but we're just looking at the non-Evo. So yeah, we'll put it at D tier. Um, the Zappies I think are a C tier card. I feel like it's hard because like the guards are in a lot better place than them right now. They're not the worst, but they don't feel as like tilting as they used to be. And they know to shoot ground and air, but there's not like that much lava in the meta, and there's still a lot of splash that they're susceptible to. Um, put the bar barrel. We'll put it at C tier. I know some people are using it, but I still don't think it's like the best spell. I think log's a lot better because it actually has pushback. Um, so yeah, I mean I'm glad it's finding its use in some niche decks, but I don't think that makes it like a B or A tier card. So it'll go C. Hunter. I mean honestly, I'll put it in at C tier. I don't know where it's at right now. I know it's got that health buff, but I still don't think I've seen like that many people using it. I hope to see a lot more people using it, but for that reason alone, I think it's got to go into C. But it definitely does get some value with that health buff, and I can definitely see more people using it in the future. Real Ghost is going in A tier. I just think this card is so good conceptually. Just being able to go invisible, it's just such a good thing. And it's just such a good built-in thing for 3 elixir. Like you have to think the Archer Queen needs to pay 1 elixir to do that ability. So yeah, man, the Royal Ghost just feels like a really strong 3 elixir card in any cycle deck. And if it gets on the tower, it's like a straight like 2000, like 1500 damage. So it like always deserves a response. The Magic Archer is going in at C. I like kind of laugh sometimes and call it like the Tickle Me Elmo Archer. It just doesn't feel like it does the most damage, and it doesn't shoot as fast as it used to. It's definitely not the worst card though. But yeah, I think that's why it's like C tier, just because it doesn't do as much damage as it used to anymore. We'll go ahead and put the Rascals in it at C tier for a 5 elixir card. I just don't think they're the greatest. They're not the worst, but yeah, they're kind of slow, and I think kind of similar to like the Bowler and other cards, like they're just not that menacing for 5 elixir, and it's easy to kind of counter them, or if they're in the same lane, just get spell value against them. And yeah, the Snowball is at B tier. It's not like the best spell, but it's only 2 elixir, and it does stun, and so for that reason alone, I think it's got to be in like B tier. It's kind of similar to Freeze, like 2 elixir less. I don't think it's that bad, but I don't think it's in the worst spot. I just think maybe it hasn't been used that much lately. So yeah, we'll put it at B tier. Recruits are going in at D tier. I think there's just like a ton of splash in the game now, so I just don't think recruits are the greatest anymore. But surprisingly, piggies are A tier, and they're super popular in the meta. I guess because it's just like you have like really good defense, it doesn't matter, and you can split them kind of. Like, you wouldn't think Piggies would be that good, but I guess because there's a lot of P.E.K.K.A, Piggies do okay against P.E.K.K.A. But there's also a lot of Splash. It just depends, like, what people are running. The piggies are like A tier in this meta. They're like one of the best win conditions for cycle. They're better than hog. The piggies are in a nice space for sure. Goblin giant, putting it at C tier. It seems better than giant, just by having the extra spear shooting. Um, but it definitely doesn't seem like the greatest. And like some of the golem is hard countered by P.E.K.K.A. and like other really popular cards in the meta. So now we're gonna have the E-Dragon. And this card's going in D tier. Like I feel like obviously people think about the Evo E-Dragon, but just the regular E-Dragon by itself, I mean that's not the most broken card, you know? Like it's definitely just not like it's even though it doesn't get countered by Void anymore, or maybe it still does. I mean you wouldn't know because Void's not really utilized much anymore. But I just feel like it's really only good for the Evo E-Drag. Normal one's not the greatest. Putting the RAM at A tier feels super solid. I know they made its charge like a half a second more, but that might even be a good thing for it because it just makes it like defend longer and have that like defensive freeze like aspect with the snare like that much longer. I think this with piggies is like your best win condition, or this or piggies I mean. Probably like always gonna be slightly better than hog, but hog like for one less elixir you might get like a like more defensive value. Wall breakers, D tier. Honestly, like I feel like even like with actually, I guess we'll put them with like at C tier. I mean, there's no Cannoneer. Like Cannoneer can't full counter him anymore, and neither can Princess. But like it just feels like a weak card for 2 elixir. And your opponent can just kind of always counter them and get like a slight counter push if I want to. But I mean, they're not like terrible. Like it's not like Cannoneer full counters them anymore. We got EQ. I'm putting EQ at A tier. I feel like this is in like a really good place right now, because of all the pump in the game, and it just feels like for 3 elixir, it just makes all these piggy decks and stuff like really good. It like ensures you can't get pumped or anything like that. You can always take out their building. So I think EQ is in really good spot, especially with the Void nerf. EQ just feels super strong. We got the Diddy cage. Going at B tier. This just feels like a super strong building, you know. Um, Obviously people use it for the Evo, but for the non-Evo, I feel like it's just a really good card. Being able to pull things to the center as a building, being able to hit everything as like the Diddy, it just is a really good mechanic, and it's just really good. We got the Fisherman. This card's going in A tier. This card's so good. Just being able to pull everything to like your like King Tower into the center. Such a good mechanic. It also slows things. It also does a decent amount of offense if it goes unchecked. Like the Fisherman's like the most broken defensive card in the game, hands down. Got the Eagle. Honestly, it's going in C tier. I don't think it's the greatest win condition right now. Just because there's a lot of good splash in the game, and Wizard's not as good as it used to be. And obviously, it gives your opponent elixir. You can still run it. Like Healer's in a decent spot. You can still try, but yeah, it's not the best. With the Healer in at B tier, I don't think the Healer is the worst spot right now. You can heal the Evo E-Dragon. So I feel like in that aspect, like it's good because like Healer plus Evo E-Dragon, like even with the P.E.K.K.A., like there's like more important troops that like can be healed now. So yeah, I kind of like Healer. Healer even Golem with the E-Drag isn't the worst. We got the Firecracker. It's going in at A tier. I don't know. This card just feels really good. I don't know if this is kind of like a mid-ladder player or what, but I feel like even if you like cover your arrows and spell it down right away, it feels like it always gets like a little bit of value just from like the first shot or like its full value. It feels like a very hard card to like outvalue over the course of a game, even if you have arrows. Um, we got the like what is this card? Oh yeah, the Royal Delivery. I'll put it at C tier. Like it's a 3 elixir spell. I think there's a lot of other spells that get more value, but it's not the worst. And it's definitely a really great defensive spell. Um, Now we got the skeleton dragons. We're gonna put the skeleton dragons at honestly at B. Where do I want to put them? Actually, we're gonna put them at B tier. I feel like they're just a really solid 4 elixir card. I think they definitely get a lot of value. For like 2 elixir, for 4 elixir, you get 2 flying units that do splash, I think they're what makes Lava Hound so good. You can also use them in Golem. Yeah, just being able to get 2 flying troops that do splash for 4 elixir, I feel like it's always gonna be solid. We got the E-Spirit. I'll put it in at A. I think this is also like right up there. Wait, I'm about to sneeze. Oh. No, I'm good. I think this is also right up there with the best spirit, along with Ice Spirit. Just being able to like disrupt and stun, and then also get rid of like 15 or like 8, however many chains, small units at the same time is just really powerful for 1 elixir. I think it's just really strong, making your cycle stronger. I'm gonna put E Giant at D tier. I just feel like E Giant's not in the greatest spot right now. I feel like it might even be worse than Golem because it has like all the same counters to Golem, but it dies even faster. It's like hard to even get as much value from your support units. So I put it in at D tier, but it could be like C tier. I'm thinking it might get an Evo soon, but just the non-Evo version for 7 elixir just doesn't feel like the greatest anymore. We're gonna go ahead and get the Mother Witch. We're gonna put it in at B tier. Uh, Actually, we're gonna put it at C tier. I feel like for 4 elixir, it's really not the greatest card because like it just makes a bunch of piggies, but they don't really do that much if you get what I'm saying. Um, and I feel like you can just get a spell down or like NATO it in and kill it fast. I feel like it kind of does a lot of nothing, and it's 4 elixir. So yeah, we got the drill. Um, the drill at A tier. It's like a very solid win condition for cycle right now. Um, it continues to be like the top like cycle decks, and they just pretty much play drill with overpowered defense, and they get like you with poison or something like fireball. You get value, and it's just a proven good win condition every meta. So we got the Golden Knight. It's going in at D tier. It doesn't feel like it's really that good of a champion right now. Um, you know what I'm saying? It just feels like it's kind of weak, and I feel like it's outshadowed by the Goblinstein. And I also think even the Skeleton King or Archer Queen's better than it. With the Archer Queen at B tier, the Archer Queen's slowly like creeping back into the meta, and I don't think it's like a bad card by any means. And I think that like besides the Goblin Sign, it's like the best champion. Obviously, it just gets taken out by lightning right away. Skeletal King is also going in B tier. I feel like it has a lot of health for 4 elixir. And I think its ability can create like a lot of menacing split lane pushes. The Mighty Miner is going in at C tier. I mean, for 4 elixir, it's pretty much a tank killer, so that's really good. But I think like cards like the Goblin Sign just pretty much outshine this meta. We got the Phoenix. The Phoenix is going in A tier. I think the Phoenix is just a super good card. Being able to fly and just respawn and destroy things, it just makes it super, super good. And honestly, yeah, like the Phoenix is just like, it just is like the best flying troop. I feel like it's like a better Mega Minion. I feel like it just, every meta, it's hard for it not to be A or S tier. This feels like it always gets instant value. You can play with P.E.K.K.A, you can play with anything. We got the Monk. Whoops, make sure there it is. We got the Monk. The Monk at D tier. I don't think the Monk's in the greatest spot right now. I feel like for 5 elixir, it's like really hard for the Monk to get its value. And it's not like cheap at all. And like yeah, you can reflect the projectiles, which is good. Like that's just like a really expensive way of doing damage. With the Little Prince in at C tier. I think the Little Prince isn't the greatest, but it's still like a cycle card. Like you can still like cycle really fast with the 3 elixir champion. But it's definitely like really weak now. So you're just pretty much using it to cycle. For the Void at F. I think since the Void nerf, it's like been really terrible. They really like killed the card. And I think it was just super strong to begin with. So yeah, that's where we're at with Void. Demolisher still feels really strong. We'll go ahead and put it at A. It just feels like a super solid splash card. I feel like it continues to be the go-to splash card for cycle decks. And especially with its bomb. I know it's been nerfed, but it just still feel like pretty good to me. We got the Curse. The curse is going at D tier. I don't think it's the greatest, but it doesn't feel like it's the worst card ever. Um, for 2 Elixir, I feel like it can get value, and it did get a slight buff, so it does have that going for it. But it doesn't feel like it's as good as Log or a lot of other cards, but it definitely feels a lot better than Zap. It's just very niche. Um, we got the Goblin Machine. It's going to F. I know they gave it a slight buff, but it's just really not a good win condition, I feel like. It needs another buff. It needs like more health, or it just needs to shoot its rockets faster, probably. It just feels super corny how it has these rockets and like it's a 5 elixir card and they're only allowed to go off like once. Like I don't know what's up with that. Like I get like maybe it's like too much damage, but I don't know. It just feels really bad. We got the Suspicious Bush. It's going at D tier. I know it got a speed buff, but it just doesn't feel like the greatest concept for 2 elixir. You just keep throwing elixir at your opponent. I guess you eventually whittle them down. You can still splash it down. You can draw it to buildings. And I don't know if the speed buff necessarily makes it like better, because you like the slower version, you could like kind of spam more of the map. So yeah, it still feels like it's in a weird spot. It still can be usable if you really want it to be. And then we have the Goblin Sign, which is going in at S tier. Like obviously, like I feel like Goblin Sign even after the emergency nerf is just a super broken S tier card, and this is gonna remain that way. And yeah, I feel like this is the tier list. I don't even need to rank the evos. I feel like ranking the cards is enough, but yeah, Goblin Sign's still super broken after that balance change. So yeah, I'll do like a little scroll through if you don't want to see it. So here's like S tier. You can see everything. We got the arrows, lightning, log, NATO, cannon card, Goblin Sign. See, you see like the A tier. My face is blocking cards and Ice Wiz. Um, you can see the B tier. You can see the C tier. You can see the D tier. You can see the F tier. So yeah, that's my ranking video. I appreciate you guys watching. And this is my first video, but just know there's gonna be a lot more of them. And so yeah, here's the tier list video. And until next time, peace.